Today's court case is U.S. v. Lopez, 1995. In March 1992, Alfonso Lopez Jr., who was a senior in high school, took a concealed handgun and 5 bullets to school. The school had heard from an anonymous tip, so they investigated, and upon investigation, he admitted that he was carrying a weapon on school grounds. So he was charged with violating a Texas statute that prohibited carrying weapons on school grounds. Not only did he get charged with this, but he also violated the Gun-Free School Zones Act of 1990. This meant that no guns were allowed within 1,000 feet of schools. Lopez was then convicted and sentenced to 6 months in prison and 2 years of supervised release. But even after this, he decided to continue his case to the district courts and then now the Supreme Courts. Question 1. Why did Lopez get arrested? What did he violate? Hey, can I borrow a pencil?
Yeah, sure. Let me check if I have one. No. Not this one. Here you go.
Thanks. Guys, what was that? I need to talk to somebody right now.
You called to see me?
Yeah, I did. I heard you're hiding a little something.
What? This? There's nothing wrong with this. I'm not gonna do anything with it.
Now the argument of the petitioner, the United States. So under the Constitution, in Article 1, Section 8, it states that Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce among several states. Now, the federal government had argued that the Gun-Free School Zones Act was directly connected to the Commerce Clause, as it was originally justified under Congress's authority to regulate interstate commerce. Now, this law was originally passed to prohibit the presence of firearms in schools, using the argument that gun violence could potentially affect interstate commerce through the movement of people, goods, or services. Now, this had led them to argue that Lopez had committed a federal crime because the possession of a firearm in schools could potentially lead to violence or violent crime, which could then affect the national economy by increasing insurance costs and then limiting the willingness of people to travel to specific areas. Question 2. What was the reasoning behind charging Lopez with a federal crime?
Okay, so first, he violates Texas law, right? Okay, and then he committed a felony. Bro, Commerce Clause. Hello, does no one pay attention to the Constitution anymore? Oh my god.
Now onto the defendant, Lopez. So he had argued that the federal government had no authority over public schools, with an emphasis that regulation of such matters should have just been left to the states and localites. He continued by stating that the Gun-Free School Zones Act had exceeded Congress' power under the Commerce Clause. Now his argument was centered over the original understanding of the Constitution, where commerce was specifically referring to trade. However, over time, Congress had extended this interpretation of the Commerce Clause to include anything that could be seen as affecting trade. So Lopez argued that this was an overextension and an overreach of the federal authority, as the law did not seem to have any substantial connection to interstate commerce at all.
Question 3. What did trade refer to when the Constitution was first written?
I don't even know what they're talking about, bro. Commerce Clause? I thought that has to do with, trade. I just brought it to school. It has no correlation. I don't know what they're even talking about. I'm at school. Just give me, a homework packet or something to do. Oh my god.
In the 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Lopez, striking down the Gun-Free School Zones Act. Led by Chief Justice William Rehnquist, the court held that Congress had overstepped its bounds under the Commerce Clause, which means that Congress can make laws to manage how goods, services, and people move across state lines. While the act was broad, the court argued it was a criminal law unrelated to interstate commerce or economic activity. Rehnquist warned if the government's reasoning stood, Congress could regulate almost every individual action, something the Constitution simply couldn't allow.
Commerce? I thought it had to do with trade and money, not guns.
Gun-Free School Zone Act. Hello, what?
What the heck? That's crazy. I didn't even do anything wrong.
You brought a weapon to school. What are you talking about?
No, I don't even get it. This has nothing to do with what it originally said in the Constitution.
You were literally arrested. What are you talking about?
No.
Guys! Stop! We cannot do this. Just take it outside. Okay, guys. You guys need to stop fighting. It's annoying. It's driving everybody crazy. So I come to the conclusion that Lopez is innocent.
Yes! What? Yeah! What?
For the first time since the New Deal era, the Supreme Court limited Congress's power under the Commerce Clause. This decision marked a shift in how the court viewed federal authority, setting clear boundaries on Congress's reach. It highlighted the court's role in ensuring Congress doesn't overstep its constitutional limits, preserving the balance of power between federal and state governments, a significant move in safeguarding the Constitution's limits on federal authority. Question 4. How did the Supreme Court check Congress's power?